All right. All right. According to this, we should be live. First and foremost, let me thank all the patrons: John K, Andrew C, Lady Quickblood, Moonbad, Babas D, Craig B, Jimmy M, Dracwiz, James C, Macy J, Tipsy Thomas, uh, James B. Wallach, Jason G., Michael W., Christian M., Cornite Care Bear, Orlinius Pius, Road Dog, King Assault, Soul Blighter, who's been left off the list for some time now due to a clerical error on my end. He was always there, I just didn't put him in the list. Soul Blighter, which is spelled wrong, I can see that now. And then a newcomer to the fray, Sage MC, Tippers, After Dark War Games, and Celtic Miniatures, and Randy the Axeman. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's bring up the screen. All right, we will turn off the Sony Handycam here. Oh, let's just bring up Aka while we're at it, because we're going to be talking for the first part of this. Not much, Tyler Norwood. How are you doing, Hungar? Hi, Command Bunker. Hi, Shadow and Sun. How's the sound coming through? We good on there? All right. Let's move that guy there. Uh-oh, is the Handycam not working? Let's see here. We'll turn that off for a second. Huh, that's a weird one. All right, let me see if I can fix this real quick. Activate. Let's see. All right. We'll leave it as is. Yeah, the camera's been going in and out and everything for some reason. I noticed that when I was sound checking, I had to deactivate it and reactivate it. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to turn on display capture. So I'm just going to shut that down for a second. Like that. Like, oh, keep her. We need her. Got to have something to look at other than my ugly ass. And then just take one more last little look. All right. I think we are all ready. Bugs aside. All right. Let's get our map up for the Somme, which I have to find right now. And we will continue on our discussion of the Battle of the Somme 1916, July 1st, which in 2 days, I think today they started the preparatory bombardment for that. And it's amazing what you find out the more and more you research here. All right. Now we've got the capture on. Just go into the internet and make sure that this is on. Okay, it's on. So I will get out of there. All right, that's all I got to do. All right, we are good. Everything is ready to go. Well, at least I should turn on the... this way I can watch chat. Where is it? There it is. All right, there we go. All right. Good evening, Wraith. How are you guys? What's up, Hungar, Alec Luda? How are you guys all doing? As long as I'm coming in sounding clear. So I found out through my research and everything. Come back. This should go a lot quicker than last time. That the Germans had already known that the English were going to attack in July. They had captured a couple prisoners, and I guess they spilled the beans about the attack. Hence, that's why the Germans were ready to come out of the trenches so fast when the barrage lifted. They knew what they were up to. And that had got declassified from the German War Department in 2016. I had just recently found that out this week. So, we left off last week with the British coming to the wire, only to find the enemy's wire uncut at many places. Then to be machine gunned down while looking for a way through near Beaumont-Hamel. And this is La Bauzée. I learned how to pronounce certain things over the week and everything. Where's Beaumont-Hamel? Beaumont-Hamel, where is it? I don't even know. Is it up? Oh, it's up here at the very north end of this map. Big black dot just by the dotted line at the very top. At the north. The top is the north, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching, the near Beaumont-Hamel, the Inniskilling Fusiliers, that I learned how to pronounce that too. The Inniskilling Fusiliers faced the Germans, who emerged from the recesses of the ravine near Beaumont-Hamel, who proceeded to lay them to waste with machine gun fire. 568 became casualties of Of that, 246 died. In the same spot, the Newfoundlanders tried to come to the aid of the Inskilling regiments. 710 of them and 710 of that regiment went missing, and all of the officers were wounded or killed for that regiment. So that's where some of the fighting was very fierce right there. Again, a lot of those giant black dots are just littered with Germans. And this is kind of also known as the Battle of Albert. You have Albert down at the bottom, and that is the road is called Bopham or Bupam. I can't pronounce. I don't have the name on there. I might have to get my other map out real quick. And so they're just basically everywhere, and the fighting is really fierce around some of these black dots like Fricourt, La Bauzée, Typal, and Beaumont-Hamel. Do I have Crucifix Trench on this map? No, I don't. Let me maximize it for a second. Nope, that's all I got. I should have chosen a better map before the stream. All right. And so if you're following along on Keegan Face of Battle, I'm on page 247. This is where I'm drawing my notes from. But I will get my map out while I'm thinking of it. Yeah. Bopham. The Roman road to Bopham is what's going through the middle. So this white thing right here is a giant road. I should have taken a picture of this map from Keegan. 20 out of 60 battalions committed in the first wave were disabled in no man's land, unable to reply to the Germans. A key factor that the German success was they, unlike the British, could call artillery support on the BEF in places where their locations could be pinpointed. Again, British were coming around and they were going to string up telephone cords behind them and follow this walking barrage and take territory away from the Germans. It was a rehearsed plan. It didn't work out. What's up, Historical Doppelganger and Rodney Hampton? Uh, 2016, missed have been... is that myth? Did you mean to say mist? Mist have been some people still alive in 1946 to keep it hush hush. Yeah, so the Germans knew this attack was coming. It was kind of like how during World War II we were reading the Germans' codes because of the Enigma machine. That was the one thing that the Russians did that actually won us the war, besides winning Stalingrad. You know. And you know what, we didn't even we could have landed troops in Russia to help support them and everything, and we didn't. We let Russia bear the brunt of all the casualties, but that's a story for another day. If you want more on Stalingrad, call the Ranger. Call the Ranger. Make him do this. All right. I just kind of got into this. Maybe it's my midlife crisis. I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with World War I. What am I gonna do? So they could call in artillery support on BEF places where the location could be pinpointed. The British could not remain in German trenches if they reached because wait a minute, sorry. They had reached because of the second and third objectives. Because of the second and third objectives that the British were expected to reach, they couldn't stay in there. They wanted them to follow that barrage. So the BF had zero communication with their own artillery. As a result, all the British could do once they reached the German trenches was consolidate, clear the captured trench of Germans, and then try to follow the barrage, to walk off against another withering stream of machine gun fire. This is the... at this time, just before, the Somme. What's up, Ultimate Warrior? Just at this time, just before the Somme, there was the Battle of, the Brusilov offensive. And what happened was the Russians were able to make a creeping barrage work for them, and they were able to take ground away from the Germans on the Eastern Front, and they had a little bit of success with this. But unbeknownst to them, the Germans were able to fight off the Russians and then go on the offensive continuously on the Eastern Front until they caused the Russian army like 1 million casualties. I mean, there's so much subject matter. Let's just kind of end it there. So this is kind of where this plan was born. It was during the Brusilov offensive. In 1917, this type of tactic would have been followed with would have men following within 25 yards of this creeping barrage, and the only thing that they had to worry about was the occasional face or base plate coming off of one of those shells and maybe hitting you, but you were actually safe behind the creeping barrage at about 25 yards. Now, in July 1916, most of the British gunners were pretty green behind the ears, and so they weren't able to make this creeping barrage work. The 18th and 30th French Division on the Somme could make their artillery creeps. They only suffered 3,000 casualties, and the French were more experienced gunners, having learned the hard way from 1914 to up until now, July 1st, 1916. They actually moved on to take their first and second objectives. Several British regiments managed to get into the German trenches only to watch the barrage curtain move remorselessly away from them, according to the prearranged timetable. I have to learn how to read my own handwriting. This is already falling apart on me. So, the number one reason for the loss of the barrage curtain is the British regiments arrived to the German trenches too disorganized by losses to be able to push on at the required time. The second reason for the loss of the barrage curtain, they ran into stiff resistance from German defenders, so the barrage left without them. This would sap the strength of any men. And as we're going to get into this, the exhaustion stopped the advance of the 9th and 10th King's Own Yorkshire's Light Infantry Regiment, who did find gaps in the German wire. They shot and bombed any Germans they found, got reinforced, moved forward to the second objective, taking 200 German prisoners. So there is some success. This is working to an extent in some places, and that only took 10 minutes. Which means you are officially at about 7:40 a.m., 7:45 a.m., depending on when these guys got off. Maybe 8 a.m. if they left the trench a little bit late or something like that. As they moved, they found more and more Germans who shot rifles and threw bombs out of them from the shell holes around them. So the Germans were just basically spread out all over the place, and you have to take these shell holes away from the opposing Germans. After a half hour, they reached Crucifix Trench. They went only 500 yards. Now, I wish Keegan had told me where these guys were fighting. I think these guys might have been about Freicourt, which is down here on the bottom, just on the southeast side of the Roman road to Bapaume, which is in the middle. So it's divided in two parts. All right, so then after this, they would be subject to furious German counterattacks. The officers that were left, like Basil Lindell, would only be able to consolidate the forces they had, get them together, put up a resistance, and then by nighttime they had to withdraw with the rest of the survivors because, one, you're either out of ammunition, two, you're either out of water, and any kind of supplies that you did have are ruined. A number of factors would require the attackers to withdraw from anything that they gained. Okay, we're making good time. there was a stiff warning not to leave the trenches because at 7:25 they were already being sprayed on their parapets by German bullets, and that's 5 minutes to 0 hour. As several spots. At several spots, survivors were able to get into the German trenches and beyond it, but most officers were gunned down. So a lot of these squads were basically, squads and regiments as they advanced forward, were basically leaderless by the time they got into their first objective markers. But most officers were gunned down, attackers were in small groups and separated from each other. Okay, so thank you, historical doppelganger. They absolutely were able to hammer the Germans and annihilate an entire army corps after the Brusilov offensive. I think that's the way I read it. I was reading other sources, besides Keegan, and the one thing I like about studying history is that you start going down one path and then you have a fork in the road. And then you go down one of those forks in the road, and then you have another fork in the road, and another fork in the road, and it balloons on there, and it does make it very hard to stay on the subject matter at hand here, which is opening day of the Somme, and but it's very interesting, this the way that one side, the Western Front versus the Eastern Front. I believe Hitler also was a veteran of the Eastern Front. He did not serve on the Western Front, which is probably a contributing factor as to why he survived the war. Is that if you were on the Western Front, I think you had a higher chance of survival on the Eastern Front as opposed to the Western Front, where I think the average was 300 casualties a day. So let's see here. Some British officers, like Lieutenant Colonel Bastard, and that's his name, crossed no man's land, collected scattered soldiers. So he did something very brave and very reminiscent of the Waterloo soldiers at this time frame. Rallied around them, organized counterattack, and organized for their counterattacks. And his survivors would become entangled with German soldiers, making it impossible to call artillery support after 2 hours of fighting. You can't call artillery support because now your ranks are intermingled with German fighters, and there's no way to pinpoint where the British are, even with fireworks or flares. There's no way to pinpoint where you are, so you can't call artillery to support you so that you can gain ground on the defending Germans. At nightfall, even Captain Bastard was forced to withdraw. So this is just examples of people who were able to get into objectives, but they weren't able to move past this objective. Did I miss a page? No, I didn't miss a page. We're already coming to the end of this. So I saw a really interesting... what do you call it here? I am going to turn off the sound because I don't want to get copywritten for it. We're just going to go into YouTube, and I wanted to show you guys some of the nature of this fighting here. Go into here, and we'll turn off Aka. Let's see here. If you guys know what movie this is, I would like for you guys to tell me, but this kind of just shows the, let's see here, turn that off. This does show the nature of the fighting of World War I here. Let's just open this up to be a little bit wider. So you got the Germans in their trenches. It's dirty. There's nothing glorious about any of this. This is like, every time I see like recreated or real footage from World War I, it is absolutely the most depressing sight. I'd say as depressing as watching a Holocaust related movie or Holocaust related subject matter. So you got the attacks coming, the artillery, boom. You know, just you can see how the trenches are zigzagged, so that you can have overarching fire and everything. You got the picking up the casualties. It's muddy. Everything is disgusting. There's no place to put the dead. But let's see here. Let's just skip ahead a little bit to where they start these offensives. So you have the French here. I think these are the guys. Yeah, those are French uniforms. You can't see the French. You can see the Germans, but the French cloak was like a shadowed gray that kind of blended in with the atmosphere. It was really weird to look at. So you'd have a series of charges once there was a withdrawal. So you have the French withdrawing, and they start to get back to their trenches. The Maxims kick in, and the Germans are trying to press the position. But I know this isn't the Somme. This isn't footage from the Somme, but I would like to know what movie this is. And this is just utterly the most devastating scenario I can think of. There's guys entangled in wire. You got guys in earthworks, and that was foreshadowed by the Boer War. Guys in earthworks, really hard to take down. Machine guns, and so they're going to retreat right here in a second. Germans start to retreat. They've got no hope of taking it because a lot of times you throw the grenade, you're not going to land that grenade at the machine gun emplacement. You're going to bounce it right in the bay before the machine gun emplacement. So they start to retreat. They go back to their trenches. This is just brutal. A very brutal reenactment. This must have taken all day to film. They didn't do this on a soundstage. They did this outside somewhere. Germans are back in their trenches. Skip ahead for a second here. I'll probably get copyright struck for this. Flamethrowers, that's not cool. Oh, this is actually pretty sad. He just sits with this French soldier and watches him die. And then the French assault the trench. And the Germans have to drive them off. And this is dirty. It's disgusting. Oh, my God. Very, very brutal fighting. If they had Thompson machine guns at this time frame, I suspect that the casualties would have been even worse, you know. And then the French pull back, and then the Germans are going to come out and they're going to go for another counterattack. Yeah, I would rather serve 5 consecutive tours in Vietnam because my mortality rate would be higher. I would rather be first at Normandy because I think my mortality rate would be higher than doing this for 6 weeks. You got these guys, they're hunkered down. They didn't even know what was going on. Their brains shut off for a second. They're hiding and hanging on for dear life. Yeah, brutal, absolutely brutal. The nature of the fighting that would go down in these trenches. Anyway, that's enough of that. All right, let's go to chat because I'm sure we have a lot to talk about and everything. We could turn off this. Well, we can leave display capture on. We'll leave the map up because we're almost done. And then, like, nothing I have works. Fucking mouse doesn't want to cooperate. There it goes. No. Okay. That's hilarious. All right, that's working. Stupid mouse. It's not working on the other computer. Let's get the map up. That's what I want to do. Okay, boom. Map is back up. We'll finish this subject matter up here. Of course, I didn't bring my soda close enough to me, so I got to resort to bottled water now. All right, so let's see here. That's All Quiet on the Western Front, 1979. All right. I thought that movie was made. I thought that movie was made a little bit later than that. I thought that was at least a '60s movie. That's kind of weird that it's a contemporary with Ridley Scott's Alien, but okay. No, I don't want to be bludgeoned with a shovel. I mean, like, again, I think that I would rather do. I'd rather, you know what? I'd rather fight 20 years in the wars preceding the Iraq War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, go to Afghanistan and fight for 20 years than serve 16 weeks in the trenches in World War One. Or I'd rather be first at Normandy or do 5 consecutive tours in Vietnam, because I think your mortality rate would be higher. I think the in the event of Hamburger Hill, I think that there were how many Marines died on Hamburger Hill? It wasn't that many. How many Marines died on Hamburger Hill?
According to 75th anniversary, Stars and Stripes.
Oh my
in the
God.
wake of the battle in May 1969.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Okay. The boomers are officially. Okay. According to Google, only 72 Marines died on Hamburger Hill. They made a movie about that. They made a movie about that. All right? Just remember that. Only 70, I mean, I'm sure there were a bunch of wounded, but only 72 Marines died. You know, here 72 people died in 10 seconds in that kind of fighting. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not like bashing war veterans or anything. I'm just bashing the boomers as a generation, you know. Oh man, I had to go to Vietnam. They scripted me, bro. Frickin' A. So yeah, this kind of wraps it up for the day. We're gonna probably do 1 or 2 more of these little Somme things, because everybody seems to be Somme presentations, because everybody seems to be liking them, and it's absolutely. I think if I do it again, I don't think I'll be here next Saturday. Just let me check my calendar. If I do it again, that'll be July 1st. And so I just think it's, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. This day in history, this week in history, we're on the prelude to the Somme. And it was just, all it took was one little conversation. So we're going to move on to our next subject. Unless anything... I don't know if they were, let me see. I still have Google open. Did Marines fight on Hamburger Hill? Oh yeah, it was a, what do you call it? An airborne unit, sorry. The maybe DM James would know what an ARVN 1st Infantry Division is. I think that might be Marines. But no, this would have to have been Army, because that's cavalry. If they're using helicopters, that's cavalry during the Vietnam era. That's cavalry. So again, I'm not a real strong Vietnam historian, you know. But yeah, that's just that's very brutal fighting that you'd have there. Let's see here. We got our PDFs. So, you know, one of the things I'd like to talk about now is that I've read the rule book to I actually instead of like writing like a new Holy Diver show and doing the things that I'm supposed to do, one of the things that I did this week was I read the entire 40K rule book for 10th edition. All right, and put that right there on the trash can. And I finished reading my 30K rule book all the way, cover to cover. All right. I also bought my my codexes finally. That which was a long time coming. So finished that. I finished the book here. I'm on special rules. I need to memorize some of the special rules, but I put out like pink little tags and everything on there and everything. And one of the things that that I've noticed about 10th edition 40K is that it is kind of broken in certain places. People are finding chinks in the armor of the poor writing and everything. And I think again the problem we have with Games Workshop is one, they're not playtesting any of this. I think that they released it and they left it to the general 40K population to figure it out. And I think that's a huge problem. That shows a huge degree of laziness on the part of Games Workshop, you know. I mean, I figure that the average cost to keep a store open, this is just with paying the salary of the guy who works there. I believe that the stores are open 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. I'm going to assume that they're open 6 days a week. They're open Monday to Saturday, closed Sunday, unless they're in a mall, unless that store is in a mall. But I could be wrong. I don't know how they run their hours. If the store is in a mall, like an actual standing mall, it's a complete failure anyway. You know, given the fact that you're probably paying $20 an hour to the guy who's there, the manager, times that by 48, you're not paying him overtime, and you're not paying him overtime. You times that by 4. No, that can't be it. Okay, so if he's working 6 days a week at $20 an hour for 8 hours a day, just bare bones, like from when he gets in, I don't know, he's holding the hours of let's see here, what time would you have to get in to be open late enough to be relevant as a store on Friday night? I mean, I'm sure the hours spike in different areas, so let's just say he's working a solid 8 no matter what day it is. That's $3,840 a month, all right? Then you have insurance and other things that you have to pay for, $1,840. And I have a method to this. And then let's say you're paying $2,500 for your commercial space, that hole in the wall in the middle of a strip mall. So that's $30,000. You're basically paying 70, we'll just round it up to 77 grand a year per store for just those two things. And, you know, there are a lot of stores that underperform, but the fact that, you know, they can't redivert resources around and actually just leave it to the retail stores that already exist, you know, and give those brick and mortars a good shot at, you know, selling their product and everything. You know, the fact that they can't redirect any resources into hiring a playtesting staff. And, you know, men will work. They don't need a lot of money to work. You know, men can get by on part-time jobs and everything when they don't have families to support. Men live pretty minimalistically, you know. They'll find a room somewhere, piss in a slop sink if they have to. As long as their immediate needs are taken care of, men live pretty minimalistically. And I got thinking, you know, if they were to, like, okay, you don't hire any playtesters from the UK. Number one, you never hire a British person to do anything because British people are some of the laziest people on the face of the planet. Just look at hobbits. You know, they don't go anywhere, you know. You know, I think that's one problem that they run into is, you know, then you don't have to worry about the bullshit of the UK. This does not need to be a clear-cut full-time career path for somebody, but maybe a 20-hour-a-week part-time job. And I got thinking, you know, if they were just to hire some play testers, you know, and I don't mean influencers. I don't mean you should exclude anybody who has a subscriber count of 10,000 and higher. Don't hire influencers. I think that you ought to sit down and you ought to find some people who have scored really high marks in tournaments and let them make a 1-minute video as an audition process. And then you pay them to play the game for 20 hours a week. And people will do it. And you probably pay them $15 an hour to do it, and they'll do it. You know, they'll be happy to do it. And just some of the chinks that they find. One problem I have with the game so far is devastating wounds. all of the mechanics that can manipulate this rule. Okay, so what is a devastating rule? A critical wound inflicts the number of mortal wounds on the target equal to the damage characteristic of the attack's weapon. Now this could be good, and if it comes in like ones or twos, like little piddly dink shit. Okay. An attack is made with a damage characteristic of 2. This is another thing that can manipulate that. Or it can be made with a damage characteristic of 4 or 3. This becomes mortal wounds. No armor saves allowed, no ward saves allowed against the attack. Alright? If you have a D6 damage characteristic or something like that, like the Eldar, who can just automatically turn that damage roll into a 6, well, that's 6 mortal wounds that you're taking. Now, I've always had a problem with the mortal wound mechanic. I would have less of a problem if, like, okay, this one laser gun from the squad does a cheeky mortal wound, but only a single mortal wound per turn. It's like little piddly dink shit, you know? Oh, hold on here. Okay, sorry about that. ARVN is the Republic of Vietnam. All right. Sorry, but let me get back on subject here. Now, if you combine this with the anti-X keyword or something like that, like let's say you're anti-vehicle, and you combine this with, like, let's say Squig Hog Boys. Squig Hog Boys don't have devastating wounds. I wish that they did. It would make sense if they had the rule. And, you know, of course I'm going to go rah-rah for the orcs and everything, but this is a hypothetical example. All right, let's say I walk in with one Squig Hog Boy on a vehicle, and let's see. And because I am omitting sustained hits 1, which is the special rule for the orcs. Oh, wrong thing. We'll close that so it's not there. Orcs have the Goth ability. When they roll to hit you, any 6s that they roll, they get an additional hit. All right, I'm omitting this. Let's just say the Squig Hog Boy walks in with 4 attacks. He hits you 3 times, and then because of his lance, he's +1 to wound you, because he's got the anti-vehicle keyword. Well, he just hit you for 6 mortal wounds. Or let's say you do get sustained hits, and then you end up doing 8 mortal wounds. I can understand that for an orc that has to endure a withering amount of fire just to come to grips with the enemy. All right, especially with the way the Overwatch rules have changed, you can choose one unit up to 24 inches away to shoot at instead of the unit that's charging you. So they have some examples of this and where the rule is broken down. Apparently, the Death Watch can do an average of 35 mortal wounds, and you know, again. That shows a lack of play testing right then and there. And there's videos over this, like 44 mortal wound Death Watch squadron devastates all, game broken. And you know, you got the internet dicks piling on, you know, crying about this rule, that rule. Now in 2015, excuse me for a second here. When Age of Sigmar dropped, I talked about the generic dumb down that it brought to the hobby. If you let more of the normies in, if you let the Funko Pop crowd into the hobby, they're going to come into the hobby and then they're going to take it over. And, you know, all this for the sake of sales or whatever, I understand that. We went from being, in 2015, I got ratioed on my first Holy Diver'S pit episode, which basically focused on Age of Sigmar and the generic dumb down. All right, that's what this was. Now, 10th is kind of another more generic dumb down. Whereas, like, I think that 9th edition was kind of perfect in a lot of ways, but brutal in a lot of other ways. The one big problem I had, again, was mortal wounds. And mortal wounds is basically, this is damage that splashes, like. And that's one problem. It's like I obliterated an entire unit of 20 orcs because I hit them with 35 mortal wounds. Okay, you're not surviving that unless you have feel no pain. Then there's a 30% chance now. But they kind of dumbed down the rules again for what do you call it? For 10th edition and everything, so that there's less things to worry about. Now, one thing I wasn't a fan of in 9th edition was the 3 brackets on every single vehicle that was big like a battle wagon or Land Raider or Titanic vehicle. It had 3 brackets and you had to worry about 3 different stat lines. All right, so this edition, they cleaned it up. They made the vehicles a little bit weaker. They don't bracket anymore. They don't get weaker. But they did that in Age of Sigmar, where it's just like where everything would just where ridden monsters would become the same profile. Where it was like, okay, if I was playing 7th edition fantasy and I was fighting a ridden monster, I was under the impression that if I just shoot at the dragon, I'm more likely to kill the dragon because the dragon doesn't get the ward save that the rider has. And how was that complicated? It wasn't convoluted at all. It's just like, oh look, I shot your dragon with a cannon. He got into base contact, and my great weapon unit got lucky and they killed the dragon. Now your guy's sitting there on foot and he's unsupported. He loses the combat by 4. You broke. Your general's dead. You see how that works? Very simple, very clean. Sure, it takes a lot of words to get to that point, but when I talked about the general dumb down, I said this will only progress to the hobby getting even dumber. Now, I mentioned the Funko Pop crowd. The moment you let these people in, for the sake of like more money, more sales, the less of a what do you call it? A niche hobby 40K is going to become. Again, if you combine this, so if you make the game easier to play and you combine this with people like Henry Cavill who want to make a 40K series, well now any Games Workshop game that isn't Warhammer 30K or Warhammer the Old World or some older version of the game is going to go the way of the mainstream. They're basically going to turn it into Magic the Gathering. You're going to have a bunch of people buying models off of the internet, putting armies together, and it's going to be a big, unpainted, gray mess of disgusting soy boys playing in shops everywhere, very similar to Magic. Except for with the younger generation, like the Zoomers and everything, they can't read, you know. And I understand. I have trouble reading myself, you know. I mean, I didn't get everything right. I can't even read my own handwriting, you know. But when you allow the world in, you have to make accommodations to the slowest person that comes in. End of story. And I think that's a good place to end it right there with that one, is that you make accommodations for the slowest person to come in so they can keep up. It's kind of like No Child Left Behind. All right. Whereas like I've compared, seeing as how I read both books back to back, the 30K book and the Warhammer 10th edition book, I'm going to say that if you're a purist and you want the purest form of 40K out there, play Warhammer 30K. You know, who cares if it's just marine on marine action? If you have a really good friend out there, I'm sure you could sit down and Tau don't exist. Necrons are asleep. What else doesn't exist in there? There's a couple of other factions that wouldn't be there. Tyranids are around, but they're not there in like any big capacity, and they've already encountered orcs, but they conquered the orcs. You know, every now and then maybe they find some orcs. Maybe you do a what's up, Shadow? Maybe you do a scenario where you sit down with your friend and you house write the rules for an orc codex to be viable inside of that game. But if you ask me, I think, you know, like I look at something like the 30K manual. And I don't think that the rules are convoluted or hard at all. Let me just find I know I have all these things labeled. So you got the rules for flyers. Let's see here. Vehicles. All right. Now this takes me back. You have the vehicle damage table. All right. So if you have a AP2 weapon or something like that, if an AP2 weapon scores a penetrating hit, add 1 to the modifier of the roll of the vehicle damage table. So let's say I have a las cannon, which is AP2. So I roll the dice and I roll a 4. Well, now I just ended up rolling a 5, which means you lose a point of damage, or it might be D3 points of damage. See here, I got this really terrible glare because of my painting, light. Let's see. You lose a whole point of damage, but it also suffers additional damage. All right. So I consult the chart. Okay, I get to choose a weapon off of your vehicle. How hard is that? That isn't that hard. All right. Whereas like in 40K, I guess, it has to all be one thing, Okay, so I blew up one of your las cannon sponsons on your Spartan. That's not hard. Now I'm firing two less shots from my las cannon array on my Spartan, which I don't think is that bad, I mean, I really did enjoy. I mean, that's very reminiscent of like how that brings a good 5th edition feel. I think these were the same results in 5th edition. I'd have to dig out that book and compare them side by side. Some things are different. Let me go over to the quick reference section. I think that's after, yeah, you got the building damage table for your terrain. Reactions. Okay, some things are different, like the weapon skill. The weapon skill chart is basically moved a little bit. You can only hit, if you're weapon skill 1, you can hit everything on a 6+. But if you're weapon skill 10, you hit everything under you on a 2+, That used to always be 3, if you were looking at the original chart. You got, our weapons are useless all the way up until your strength 7. You have to be strength 7 just to do anything to a, and that'll also depend on your AP, just a wound toughness 10, And so that, that isn't that hard to remember, that I need a 6 to wound you. Whereas like everything now they have like things that are toughness 14 in the book and everything, and it's just, I mean, they tried to dumb it down, but I don't think they were successful, And another problem that I think that 40K has is that there are 20 there are 20 different playable factions, each of them having their own rules. Now, some of them don't have rules yet, I'm going to speculate there, but they are going to try to come out with books for this. Whereas I think that the system that they have, where I buy another book like this and it has the rules of all the good guys in it, I think that's a way better system, or this is a way better system than trying to write books for the next edition. I think if the new 40K stays index cards and they don't make any books, but they already said they're going to write books for it. I think that it will work a lot better, because then they can change rules on the spot and they don't have to FAQ anything. They can FAQ them in real time as they find broken shit about it. Another thing that they have is like this one guy put up a video. I think it's I'll just shout his channel out. It's the Red Ones Go Faster, and he kind of discovered like a chink in the rules involving the Mech Boy Workshop, and I followed along. I reread the rule book and the parts that he was getting it from, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's right. Now, this is a piece of terrain. It says fortification, but it's also a vehicle keyword. And the thing that kind of that he found out, I mean, because I hadn't read this specific card yet, because I don't own the model, all of the parts of this must be set up within 1 inch of one another. And at the end of your movement phase, each friendly orc model within 12 inches of the fortification regain D3 lost wounds. Roll separately for each model, and each model can only be affected by this once per turn. He said that you can buy 2 of these, and then each Mech Boys Workshop can act as a giant wall between you and your enemies, because each one takes up like 3.5 feet if you just lay the pieces out side by side. And you can stack these pieces, and they only have to be within X amount horizontally, 1 inch away from each other horizontally at any given time, and they can deploy on pieces. You can deploy pieces of terrain on terrain, and that's perfectly legal. What's up, John King? So the fact that, they didn't say that this is this is a piece of terrain that you actually have to put down and keep it separate from other pieces of terrain is another chink in the armor. And it shows that, if they just, I really think if they sat down and they had a team like the team that worked on 30K, because I think that's way solid. I just finished reading the rules to that. I'm just about to make a whole slew of note cards, so I absolutely know the rules to 30K. And I also have to do the same for 40K. I think that, if they did the careful planning, the careful play testing, and I also think that, okay, one direction Games Workshop is going, this is me being a conspiracy theorist, is that they could be going to okay, we're going to give the dipshit normies Age of Sigmar, Killzone, Warcry, and 40K. We're going to give it to them. And the diehard gamers who actually have a little bit of money, who are boutique gamers, the niche gamers, the ones that we want, like the people who are going to play Warhammer the Old World, the people who are going to play 30K and can afford to play 30K, they're the ones that we're really going to target and write decent books and rules for, and then, and we'll just go with them, but we'll keep the two separate. I can see them going that direction, But people have, there's already a video on YouTube explaining how Germany has banned 10th edition because, I guess their tournament organizers didn't like it. And most tournaments, again, are private events. I wouldn't go to a Games Workshop sponsored event even if they paid me, So I'm just going to kind of leave it with that. I really think that, when you had the initial dumbing down of the game in 2015, the switch to Age of Sigmar, I called this out. I could sit there and I could do my razor fist, fuck you, I was right, fuck you, I was right. But, you've already had people making the release of 10th edition, making the comparison to 6th edition, finding the broken holes in all that is written. There's typos everywhere. Not to mention you have, do I have those guys out in handy? They mislabeled the mega knobs, and the mega knobs don't take up 2 spaces in the truck because it doesn't say that they're in mega armor. So little mistakes like that, I'm actually really amazed that people love the game this much. That's wrong with it within, 1 week of its release date? So you're forcing the people to do the playtesting themselves when you should have already had a packaged product. And I again, there's too many factions in 40K for you to actually physically write for. Now, the contrast to that is in 30K, all of the armies are basically the same thing. There's a tactical squad in there. You get 10 guys for 100 points, and then everything comes down to how you outfit them. And then you have heavy weapon squads. You have you can buy the one Spartan, and then it just comes down to how you outfit that Spartan. How did you build the Spartan? What weapons is the Spartan going to have? People say that 40K for the lore. People play 40K for the lore. Well, they do. But, I kind of lost my my train of thought there. You can play it for the lore because, I do like the battles between orcs and you have a good nap, Hungar. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for coming in. You have a lot of good, one of the things that I'd be happy with just in a lore setting, I'd be happy with just my collection of dwarfs and my collection of greenskins for fantasy. I could be happy with that. If that's all I had and that was the extent of my hobby. And again, a lot of people do not take the hobby as a collection of things. They kind of take it as in, I have to paint something every single time something new comes out. I have to find what's broken, what will get me the advantage. I have to buy all of that shit, get it painted. And people never settle in when they meta chase. They never settle into an army. Whereas okay, I've gone through everything that I own. I don't own this. I'm not going to go out and buy one, but I've gone through all of the models that I own for 40K for my orc army. I've put together a list, all right, and I'm going to try it out on Sunday, tomorrow. You know, and I'll even tell you what's in my list. I don't think it's going to do that well, but, you know, I could be wrong. But let's just read this off real quick and go into Battleforge. So the first thing I'm going to try is a mech boss and mega armor. I'm going to try a mech for 45 points. I'm doing a war boss and a war boss, 2 units of boys, 3 trucks, a Gorkanaut, a custom boost of Blasta, 6 mega knobs, a Morkanaut, a unit of knobs, and 2 units of squig boys. That's everything that I'm bringing, and I'm 1,900. I am 1,980 points in that. And I'm just going to leave the list at that. And I'm just going to leave the list at that. So, you know, you got like you got other videos on there that are also like the Eldar have the miracle dice, which I think I've already mentioned, and everything. And it just I think it shows a lack of care and a lack of play testing on Games Workshop's end. And I think as players or people who actually like the 40K lore and dabble in 40K, I think we should expect more from 40K, the writers of that game, than what we got in 10th edition. I think the problem is, again, they don't want to hire playtesters. The problem they had with all their playtesters that they fired was they leaked every single new release. All right? They leaked every single new release. Now, they don't know exactly which one leaked what, but the fact that it got out anyway. And I don't see why they need to be secretive with anything, you know, on a release schedule. I don't see why it needs to be a big hush-hush secret. You know, and I really think that, you know, to put a good cap on this, I really think that if they sat down initially with 10th edition and said, we're only going to focus on 10 armies upon release, all right? And then you have to wait 2 to 3 months to get the other 10 armies upon release. They would have done a lot better job, because you can only write so much at once. You know, I mean, literally, there was one guy who compared the writing of 10th edition to, let's get ChatGPT to come in and write 10th edition. Now, I will say something to the effect of, this does still feel like 40K. It's very clean in the way that it will play. You know, and I'm going to have my first test game tomorrow and everything. And, you know, I feel like I already kind of have an idea of how to play this. How an idea of how this is going to work. So they did a good job there. But the fact that there are just so many people finding chinks in the armor, and that's all you see is video after video of how they botched it, you know. This is exactly like, you know, mark my words, I guarantee 6 months from now, they're going to 10.5. And they had to go to, let me see here. I think they did that. They did that for 6th edition. 6th edition was so terrible. 40K 6.5. Yeah. They had fumbled the release of 6th edition so badly that, and I have the book upstairs. I should really give it a read, but I don't have that kind of spare time. They fumbled it so badly that basically I think they spent 2 years on 6th edition, and then they went straight to 7th. Let's see, this would have been 2007. Let's see. When did Warhammer 40K 7th edition come out?
According to Wikipedia, all codices were rendered obsolete by 8th edition Warhammer 40,000. 7th edition was released May 2014.
So they released that in May 2014. When was Warhammer 40K 6th edition released?
Here is information from Lexicanum.
It only lasted 2 years. The edition only lasted 2 years. They tried to put a Band-Aid on it in the middle somewhere and bring it out to 6.5 with a giant errata. and they fumbled it, so it's like, okay, I mean, who sat down and wrote the book? And then here's the other thing, again, Games Workshop, when they do have decent writers, they don't want to pay these people. I mean, and there is some truth to that. How fast did Duncan Rhodes work? How long did he work there, and then how quickly did he leave? And start doing his own thing and come out with his own paint line. So, that should be a good indicator there, is that something is rotten in the state of Denmark. They just want, and again, there is something to corroborate this. They just want that one guy to come in, spend $300, come back, buy paint, and then basically throw the entire thing in the dumpster because he didn't want to work that hard to begin with. That's kind of like most people's relationship and first brush with Games Workshop, so. All right, this subject got a little long-winded. I'm going to end it there. We're going to go into the painting portion of this, but before I get there, I'm going to deal with your chats, and we're going to talk for a minute, Get all this crap out of the way. God damn it, what? I'm already turning this place into a trailer park. Now I can't leave. Put the garbage can there. Put that there. All right. Fucking hey. All right. Okay, so brick and mortar stores. Okay, you could give them store credit. No, I think that the play testers would have to be paid. They would have to be paid individuals, and there are people out there, there are tournament guys out there who literally, like, this is why, like, the last argument I had with some douchebag at a game store about why you're not a real tournament player, is I sat him down and I asked him, like, how many hours a week do you spend playing 40K? He says, I play like 2 games a week. And I said, did you know that most people who are like top-ranked tournament players usually play 1 to 2 armies, and they play 20 to 30 hours a week, and that's why they're better than you. And his head exploded on that one metric alone. I don't know what a privateer press ganger is. I know that they came onto the scene hard. A lot of people jumped ship. And I always told my friends they love that game. They love the shit out of that game. It's kind of a passing fad. And every weekend they play Hordes, I'd go out to the shops and I would try to just go and play Fantasy. And then I did eventually, and the worst part about anything that came out of Privateer Press is that the models are worth nothing. You can't even sell them decently painted for what you bought them for. I don't know. I got an entire Scorn faction that I couldn't pay somebody to take from me on eBay. I could probably, and I don't want to take a loss on it, so I'm just gonna keep it. Maybe I'll light it on fire, because that's the best way for me to get my money back. Because it's not even worth wasting my time to put an auction out to at least get an additional 25 to anywhere from let's say we'll just go with models that are this size. It's not worth my time to make an auction to get an additional $25 per model with them painted to a decent standard. So, I mean, what does that tell you about Privateer Press as a company? Wow, you guys made an awesome game, and I guess you screwed up on MK3, and now nobody plays, and if they do play, you rendered everything that they currently own into Legends, and now you 3D print models. Yeah, you're a bunch of winners over there, Privateer. You guys just win every single time. Yeah, that is true. 5 to 6 games a week, 90 minutes. Yeah, they practice. They drill for this. That's their hobby. That's not my hobby, but that's their hobby inside of the hobby. My other hobby is I lift a lot of weights and I do a lot of exercise. No, I appreciate everything you answered up there. So I've already said hi to Shadow. Hello, John. What's up, Warlander? Okay, coming down, coming down. Let's see here. Thank you. Yes, please hit the thumbs up button if you guys leave. Yes, yeah, I agree with you, John, uh, uh, King John, that they are getting ready to do the Henry Cavill live action and go mainstream, and then you will have Games Workshop basically going the way of Marvel, going the way of DC, going the way of Star Wars into Normieville, and then maybe they sell the rights to Disney, and then that's it. You don't have a hobby anymore. It's like I didn't even hear any. Did anyone in this room even watch the Dungeons and Dragons film? Um, I mean, here's another one. I mean, I haven't even. Let's just get Akka back up there. I miss her. Seeing as how we're talking, you guys gotta have some eye candy. I didn't even watch the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, and but the a while back, I think on Saturday mornings I select an old cartoon every now and then, and I watch it. So I watch one cartoon every Saturday morning, just for nostalgia purposes. All right. Sometimes it's the real Ghostbusters. Sometimes it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's just something to do while I take in my first cup of coffee. But the other weekend, I didn't watch one this weekend. I didn't stay in bed as long. I watched the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, and there is an episode called "The City at the Edge of Midnight." Hold on, let me see here. Oh God, let's not do it that way. Let's. Well, actually, I can. I think this will work. Dungeons and no internet connect. Oh wait a minute, not working. Okay, let me find out the Dungeons and Dragons: The City at the Edge of Midnight.
Here is some information
Okay.
about City at the Edge of Midnight. The Nightwalker steals children at the...
All right, so this had a really cool story concept about a Nightwalker that would come into the real world where the kids were from, steal children, and force them to work in a clock tower to constantly hold back the flow of time so that the clock would never strike midnight. Um, yeah, I think I should bring that up. Um, There it is. I'll bring this up real quick. And just the way that this episode was written and everything, you had this like guy who lost his daughter to the. I think this guy's name is Ramud, and he's kind of like Salah Hadin and everything. Yeah, here's a picture of the whole cast. And he lost his daughter. He's looking for his daughter. And then eventually the barbarian kid, I don't know his name, he gets kidnapped by the Nightwalker, and they go in to this city to get the kids back. All right. And I was just like, and here's what so you got a bunch of demons and everything, and they weren't fighting Venger, the primary villain. They were fighting this guy, the Nightwalker. And I was just thinking about, like, if they had done this specific storyline, flushed it out from a 20-minute story to a 90-minute story, this would have been like the best movie ever. This would have been like the Zoomer, because the Zoomers don't have any good movies. All the good movies were basically wrapped up by about 2004. That's when we started to go downhill. But if they had done this story, flushed it out, kind of elaborated this City at the Edge of Midnight, they would have had an Academy Award winning film. This would have been a really awesome Dungeons and Dragons story if you just use what you have here. The characters you got, and everything, because the cartoon wasn't bad, but this episode was very well written. And yeah, again, if you can watch this on YouTube, it's called The City at the Edge of Midnight. But yeah, if you watch that, I mean, I'd say 10 out of 10 story concept right there. That was probably, maybe Gygax had a hand on it, but just kind of digressing there, I mean, but they always have to put this moment in there, and this is where it's going to come. You're going to have the 40K live action film, and then at some point during the 40K live action film, there's going to be the moment where the lesbians kiss. Yay! And that's where our hobby's going to go. That's where our hobby's going to go. You let the normies in, that's where it's going to go. And then you have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. Every escape, every male niche hobby has then and there been destroyed. Oh, you can't even see it. So, never mind. I should have been mindful of where all this stuff was. So, anyway, let's go back over here. All right, we'll turn this on. Hopefully it works, and I don't have to reactivate it. There, it's working. I'll get rid of her. And I guess we can paint for a minute or two. But damn, what a long-winded rant here. Bobby the Bard, thank you. All right, so let's see here. I'll catch up in chat now. Warlander TV. Should have been the greatest editions of all time. So you're saying that 10th should have been the greatest edition of all time? And when it gets to 13th edition, these edition numbers are going to sound ridiculous. Yeah, I think at some point they need to kind of... I'd say bring back 5th edition and just make some mild changes. I mean, again, this isn't my words. These are the words of Commissar Gamza. What's funny is when he badmouths Games Workshop, people reward him for it. I badmouth Games Workshop. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I didn't know what I was talking about when I had already been a seasoned fantasy player, and they ended my favorite game and replaced it with Age of Crapmar. I mean, sure, people are playing Age of Sigmar now, and you got hobby stores selling more than they've ever sold before. But I'm going to say that the turnover rate for players is still just as high as it ever was. They get into the hobby, they make the $300 purchase, and then they find out that it's work. And then it goes and it sits in a box. All of those boxes they bought go and they sit in a bigger box in the closet somewhere. And then they vlog about their piles of shame. Just like that dumbass butt-clapping captain of the Bussy Patrol Discourse Miniatures. Isn't that what our hobby's been reduced to? I wonder how many influencers are out there that talk about their piles of shame, and then they show themselves in the closet with box after box of stuff that they've bought, and that's what they talk about within the hobby, the things that they've bought. Yeah, that's great. That's where we've gone. I'm going to have to read that Oathmark book you gave me again. Thank you for that. I've got to really sit down. But, I mean, one day I will come into my own here, and I will be able to sit down and do all kinds of things. Well, you watched it and expected it to be way worse. Well, you can tell me your opinion on the Dungeons & Dragons thing. They already made a Dungeons & Dragons film. It went straight to DVD back in the day. Because back in the day, if a film went straight to DVD, it meant that it wasn't gonna draw anything, any kind of money anyway. And then they made a sequel, a Dungeons & Dragons sequel that went straight to DVD, and that movie involved a dragon at the end, and it wasn't that bad, and they had a chick barbarian that used intimidating shout. That was pretty funny, I guess. Yeah, the ability to convert models again. Yeah, they've gotten rid of all creativity in the hobby. You're absolutely right there, War Game 341. I mean, back in the days of 6th edition, they didn't have a Hell Pit Fiend. You had to make that model, or that might have been 7th edition. You had a Hell Pit Abomination, and you had to make that model. And so, I mean, the ability to make models like we have this model. We don't know what it is. Maybe you guys get a little creative. Maybe you take some Games Workshop parts that you have laying around. You take this Shaggoth body and you combine it with these elements and you get really creative. That was like the biggest reason in the world to read White Dwarf back in the day, is that they would be like, oh, we have these orc torsos. We have these bits here, and I'll have to get that out next time. We'll make this unit of Chaos Mutant dudes. I think that was in the Storm of Chaos book. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, the Sci-Fi Channel. The Sci-Fi Channel used to make a lot of B movies on the cheap. They filmed a lot of them in my state. Like Ice Spiders was filmed where I live. I always thought, I would go to some of these auditions and. It was only for extras and day players. The worst part about sci-fi movies being the Sci-Fi Channel movies being filmed where I live, a lot of times is that they were already casted. They were already cast. Oh, Sasquatch, and they already have their cast. So you're not getting a speaking role. You're not getting your SAG card. For the crappy B movie. All right. That said, feel free to talk amongst yourselves. But I think I should paint for at least a good 30 minutes here on this video. Look what's going to get done today. Oh, these two Bestigors, and there's only 3 of these guys left, which is good. So let's see here. Let's me just looking here. I'm going to need a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. What else we got? Some metal. Need that. And we finished a dwarf the other day. I was just sitting here. Got that guy done. There's only one more dwarf left. And that'll give me an even 25 dwarf warriors for the Lord's unit that he's in. Right now, they're just sitting there 23 dwarf strong. But, you should always finish out and flush out your units. If you're short 2 guys, and I only got to finish 1 dwarf. What else we got? We'll get a little bit of that. We'll use some of this. And this. All right. Now, upon further inspection, yeah, let's do the gold on these guys, if any. Yeah, don't get me started. That just brings back so many memories, all the kit bashing ideas that they would give you. Now, White Dwarf is essentially like, here's 3 battle reports for the 3 games that we chose to highlight this month, and then here's a bunch of commercials for our crappy products that we want you to buy, and then we haven't been selling this model, so let's advertise it in a cool way in this one scenario. There you go. That's what they're doing, What pisses me off is that they'll go and make a model that lags behind in terms of sales. They'll make that model amazing, and then people will go and buy it. Like the Eldar support weapons and everything that are doing all the mortal wound garbage. And I don't want to get too far into this or anything, but I think they should have focused on 10 factions right at the beginning. Say, these 10 factions will be available to play at launch, but we need a minute. We need a minute. How hard is that? To say that we need a minute. Because we only have employees from the UK, and I'm taking 33 days off a year. I'm not working long. I'm only working $39 39 hours a week, and I'm telecommuting. We will telecommute and playtest these games. I don't want to get COVID. Oh no. These guys are all wearing a bracelet. I'll finally have these 10 dudes done. Out of the way. dirty sock here. My sock rag. So you get 30, so Midnight Aristocrat, you're getting your 33 days off a year, are you? Is Katie from Tabletop Tactics going to hit up your local wargaming club this week? They say that bird's a dream. I just think if you're running on a timeline, you know, you got to put in overtime. That's the problem. You got to put in some overtime. You got to burn the midnight oil, and nobody wants to burn the midnight oil. There it is. I don't know how I missed that, but that's going to cost me. There we go. I'll just cover it with some copper right now because metallic will stick to it, and then I'll repaint it leather. But yeah, these guys are getting done today. Oh my god. I'm going to lift some weights later today. I think I might skip nap time, gentlemen. You know what? The one thing that I have noticed is that the mid-level influencers, the guys with like in the range of like 6,000 to 8,000 subs or something like that, they've been kind of bad mouthing the game. Even what's his name? What do you call it? Hellstorm Wargaming has been kind of bad mouthing it a little bit, showing all the chinks in the armor and everything. You know, so but you know, the weird thing is now Discourse has changed its tone. He's changed his tone on the on it, and it's like, oh, it's not such a bad game after all. And then, like, of course, if you're Tabletop Tactics, you have to toe the line so that you can get your freebies and everything. But yeah, I really think it's going the mainstream. Here comes Henry Cavill and his Amazon series, and let's see how much money we can make, kind of a thing here. Actually, I should leave the house later and get a folder for all those stupid data sheets. So the only bad part about painting these guys is at some point they go right to being like you have to paint them as individuals because of all their little dots and everything, and you got to get everything just so. All right, so what he needs next is leather. Then I still have 10 more of these a-holes. It's okay. I think I can breeze through them. I'm not going to need them for a little while. All right, let's do some bone color next. Oh, of course, never mind. I'm going to have to determine each pose that I have next time with these guys. And paint these ones first. But no, I I have a different way to paint these bestigors now that'll help me speed it up. After I dry brush them brown, I dry brush them leather brown. Then I put the flesh on. Then I do the metal. And then my lines are clean, so I don't have to worry. And then I do the hair. And then my lines are clean. Okay. Have a good one, Alec Luda. Thanks for stopping by. "24 days of paid holiday? I would be happy with 9 days of paid holiday. I think that if I got paid for Black Friday, I'd be thankful for that. So you get your Thanksgiving, which is an American holiday, as you know. We like to eat over here. That's all we do. We eat Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday. On the 24th, Thursday, every single November. And then we take Friday off, and it's a 4-day weekend. I would like to be paid for Black Friday. I mean, I know that your country has been around a lot longer. You probably getting paid for St. Crispin's Day. This day is known as the Feast of Crespian. He who outlives this day and sees old age shall live a tiptoe and rouse him at the very name of Crespian. Let's see here. What's this? What do we see here? What's he that wishes so? No, my fair cousin Westmoreland. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. But if to live, the greater share of honor. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more. Thank God, am I covetous for gold? Oh man, this is the unadulterated speech. We would not die in that man's company. Westmoreland through my host, that which no man hath stomach to this fight, let him depart. His passport shall be made, and crowns for convoy put into his purse. Oh, what a good speech. It kind of comes back to me. You have to have that speech memorized. You know, that's just one of those good speeches. I'm not maintaining frame today. I forgot I have to switch to this side in order to maintain frame. It's all the little brush. I don't mind using this little guy. I really don't. What do we got here? All right, a little bit of leather. Who would hold their manhoods cheap and pour They were not with us. Okay, I think that's let's see. I know the part of the hold their manhoods cheap. And let any speak who fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. What's up, Hussar General? How you doing today? Oh yeah, I didn't do the bestial brown, the Gothor brown highlight on their hair. That really makes a difference once you get it on there. By God, I will be ready. I will be ready for when what do you call it? Comes out. When Warhammer the Old World re-releases, I will be ready. Cue that color up. And these two. This will be how I finish it off. Need that color. Are we actually going to finish a model today? Yes. Maybe two. That needs to go over there. Prop my big fat leg against that. Put that there. Just keep laying down that sick amount of paint. Alright, let's see here. Alright, sorry, my mom kept texting and texting. Alright, just about done here. I need to... His skin is just a little bit too dark, so I got to get a little bit of the dwarf, and I've got to go buy some Bugman's Glow today, it looks like. Oh no, I have to buy my paints. Oh no. So, just a little bit of a highlight on his flesh. There we go. Much better. One last thing I gotta do. I'm going to wash him and then put him to the side. That'll be it. Hell yeah. Then we finish up his buddy, and I can finally get these two pieces of crap off there. And then I've still got to decide what I'm gonna do for basing and everything. I bet you with a little work I could probably rememorize that speech. I know for a fact I can't memorize Beowulf again. I don't have it in me. That's a performance. The wash smells good today. God, I got one. I might take a vacation next week, so I don't know if I'm going to be here. I'll announce on Instagram if I'm taking a vacation or not next week. I need to get out. I need to get out and relax. Token did a translation of Beowulf. I'd have to look into that. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, sir. I know that he borrowed heavily from Beowulf in a lot of places. Working for the shake off. All right, you can go over there. Let me pull up your friend here. And we can restart this process anew. I think his leather and metal is already done. Nonetheless, we'll start with the leather. I didn't think I'd get so long-winded on the topic matter at hand. I'm going to start to, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to divide up some of these talking points that I've done into smaller videos so that I can hit those, what do you call it, a little bit more? The keywords on YouTube just a little bit more. That way, if you don't want to watch the painting portion of the video, you can just watch that part of the video from the Hangout. Plus, it'll give me an extra thing to sling over there until I start making battle reports. I haven't decided if I'm going to make a battle report tomorrow or not, but I think I had better because I haven't made one for a little while. And then I've got to rope my friend into another game of fantasy, which he's already agreed to. So, Hell yeah, we'll get both these guys done on stream. Oh yeah. And then I can actually, after I'm done making notes for 30K and 40K, after I'm done with these note cards that I absolutely have to make, otherwise I'll never master the game. I told my friend I'd be a little bit more studious in these games. And when I say I'm going to do something, I always do it. It's one of my hallmarks. Told him I'd be a little bit more studious. So after I do that, I'll get back to writing shows, and I'll get back to painting in the evening. So I should be able to get a Holy Diver show out maybe by the end of July, but don't quote me on that. Work had me for, they had my sorry ass for 52 hours this week. But June is always a very busy month for me. It's always a crapshoot month because I've got at the end of May, I've got the end of I've got the end of Mother's Day, and then you go into June. I've got like 3 birthdays in the family. There's the family reunion to commemorate my grandma's death, and then there's my sister's birthday, my mom's birthday, my stepdad's birthday. Then there's Father's Day. Then there's my grandpa's birthday, which was yesterday, and he is 97. So June is a big crapshoot for me. Plus, they've had me working my butt off at work. So, it's probably the most draining thing that I do is the month of June. I hate the month of June for those exact reasons. You know what I remember is when the Sci-Fi Channel was the Sci-Fi Channel, and then what they do? They realized it was too expensive to get reruns of Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation. When they came out, when the Sci-Fi Channel initially came out, they were a pretty badass channel. On Saturday mornings, they would have anime and shit like that, and then they just sort of like degraded to like, oh, we've got cops. Cops and reality TV would be on there all the time, and they literally fell from grace. They had that show where they did the masks and makeup or whatever. I mean, they almost had something. I wish Tremors, when they did the TV show for Tremors, that had been a hit. Maybe it would have changed their fortunes just a little bit. And they also had like Shannon Doherty was their hostess, and I think she had a TV show on there. It's funny how on Sci-Fi Channel they never I don't ever remember them when they were a part of the extended basic cable family. I don't ever remember them airing Aliens or Alien 3 at any given time. They never touched anything from 20th Century Fox. Yep, you have to go down, sir. You have to go down. Then the dwarf will go down, and then those Macedonians will go down, and then the entire table will be scraped, and I'll be ready for mid-July when my Minotaurs and my Spartans show up. The Minotaurs are done being stripped from what I've been told. Are you kidding me? Piece of shit. Alright, just give me the paint. There we go. I'll switch brushes just to appease you. It's another thing that pisses me off is when is Games Workshop going to go to better paint delivery system like drop bottles, or at least something like the P3 thing, because I can at least clean them out when I have to. Like these guys, they're all buck-teethed. Buck-toothed. Then I can throw some brushes away. I can throw some brushes away. All right. Good deal. Get rid of this crap. Have a good one, Mr. Dynamite. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for dropping by. We're about out of here. This guy's going to get done, and then we're about out of here. He needs... Hell yeah. We're down to the final 4. And then we're out of here. I think I had a good stream today. You let me know in the comments section, guys. That's done. All of this crap's done. Yeah, I don't know what... Maybe I didn't shake my Bugman's Glow enough. It just didn't... They just ended up a little bit too dark for my taste. So I gotta mix in a little dwarf flesh. Just a little bit of dwarf flesh and bring their skin up just a little bit. course. A little bit too wet, but that's okay. Can't just do a stream where I don't paint anything. I think that would be a crime. Yeah, that brings his flesh out just good enough. Now he just needs his Gothor Brown and a wash, and that's it. We can get the hell out of here, and I can go on to nap time. But I think I'm going to lift weights instead of taking a nap. That's what I think I'm going to do. I don't know. And he's got that one little awkward patch of fur up there. Alright, let's double check the bottom here. Just where his hair ends is where it gets kind of tricky. Well, hell yeah. Wait for that to dry for a second. And you thought these guys would be on the table forever, you know? You thought that these guys would be on the table forever. No, they're leaving the table today. They're going to go over here in this nice, God. They're going to go over here in this nice box of stuff over here. And they're going to sit there some more. That's what my pile of shame looks like. It's 2/3 painted and it's not based. That's what it looks like. Yeah, I'm gonna do more of those. I'm thinking about doing one on Verdun, a little 4-part or 5-part series on Verdun, but you know, the Somme, you know, it's amazing that God, you know, I mean, if you're about my age, historical doppelganger, I mean, you might not have even known your great grandparents. Like my great grandparents who are of that generation, they my great grandpa Nielsen, he died when he was 60. My other great grandpa clacked off when he was 55. You know, they all just lived such hard lives back then, you know. And I guess that's why they called the lost generation, is because we know so little about them. In England, didn't they have some kind of celebration years back where they had the ghost soldiers walk through the streets, and each one had like a brochure representing a little bit of a biography about a soldier that he was, about how he died on the Somme and everything. Wasn't that a thing in the UK? I guess we'll have to talk about that in the next one. They had some kind of a ceremony where a bunch of men dressed up in full World War One outfits, and they marched around, and they had a brochure about a soldier who died on the Somme. And I think they did that 100 years to the date. And another thing, with these presentations is it really gives you something to talk about, other than wargaming, and I think that that's good, just a little bit of subject matter. This is a dude channel, and what do dudes talk about? Well, could a Spartan beat a ninja? Well, yeah, let's talk about some battles and stuff, so I just think it's better that, let's keep it a little educational, a little classy, you know and we'll see where it goes. We will see where it goes. We will see where this all goes. Then you got to do the shake off. Haven't decided on basing these guys yet. I have to be very careful. Yeah, that's what it looks like, is that they're going to a woke version of 40K. Well, I think this is a good time for me to kind of call it off, So I want to thank everybody for showing up, and let's shout out the patrons one more time. Patrons: John K, Andrew C, Lady Quickblood 35, Moonbad, Bobus D, Craig B, Jimmy M, Drac Wizza, James C, Macy J, Tipsy Thomas, James B, Wallach, Jason G, Michael W, Christian M, Cornite, Care Bear, Olinius Pius, Road Dog, King Assault, Soul Blighter. I will get rid of that typo. And I'm sorry you've been off the list due to a clerical error. And newcomer to the fray of Holy Diver's Army, Sage MC. Tippers After Dark Games, Celtic Miniatures, and Randy the Axeman. Again, if you want to get in touch with me, you can always hit me up on Instagram for painting tips at any given time. It's a lot easier for me to do that on Instagram because I can leave you a 1-minute voice message. That way I don't have to sit there and type everything out on YouTube. So if you want to know some of the recipes that I'm using for paint, that's always the best way to get in touch with me. If you want to support the channel, you can always hit me up on Patreon. Don't forget to check me out on Rumble. There will be some new battle reports coming soon. Of course, if you are a patron, you get all the battle reports first. And anyway, if I don't see you, stay metal, keep painting, keep playing, and we'll see you in the next ones, my friends.